Hello, welcome to Bored and Confused, where I review shows based on two criteria. One, was I bored? Two, was I confused? Today's show is Wendy Wasserstein's An American Daughter, playing off-Broadway at the Pershing Square Signature Center. Now, before I get into this revival of this play from the 1990s, please take a moment to like, comment, and subscribe. I love hearing about what you guys are seeing on Broadway, off-Broadway, off-Broadway, and even regionally. And also love hearing your thoughts about the plays that I'm reviewing and letting me know plays that you think I should see and talk about here on my channel. I appreciate all that. So I did not know much about this play going in other than it was by Wendy Wasserstein, and I'm familiar with the plays she's written. Like, I know she wrote Sisters Rosenzweig and the Heidi Chronicles, but I've never seen productions of those plays. So I'm really not familiar with her material, but I understand that she's very good with comedy, although this is one of her more serious plays. Just a little quick history. This is interesting, y'all. This was developed and workshopped at Seattle Rep in 1996, and it starred Meryl Streep, heard of her, Julianne Moore, and Liev Schreiber were all in the cast. And a year later, in 1997, as part of Lincoln Center's theater season, the play came to Broadway at the Court Theater with a different cast. But the new cast was well received and praised. But the play itself got kind of a mixed reaction, with male critics being more harsh and female critics being more forgiving. Now, this play is a feminist-leaning play, so Wendy Wasserstein was not happy about these reviews, and she continued to work on this play in a Chicago run where she started reworking the second act. And now, for this revival produced by Femme Theatre Productions, they've looked through, founder and executive producer of La Femme Theatre Productions is Jean Lichty, and so she's the one who really wanted to do this show because they have a focusing on women-centered plays. And she wanted to revive this, but they went through a bunch of manuscripts with permission of the Wasserstein estate, and they reassembled a second act with a different ending than what it had on Broadway. Okay, and this is directed by Sarna Lapine, and it's running at the Irene Diamond stage at the Signature Center, and the production has been extended through September 20th. Okay, so what is this play about? Without spoiling anything, the play follows Dr. Lissa Dent Hughes, a woman from a prominent political family who's on the verge of a major national appointment. Her rise gets derailed when a small, almost mundane personal misstep gets picked up by the media, and it snowballs into a real referendum of the double standards women in power get held to. So, I think this is a timely play both in the 1990s, when it was inspired by some things that were going on with women who got these appointments, but then really ridiculous things derailed it. We think of like Hillary Clinton's Nanny Gate. And also now, you know, we've seen women run for the office of presidency, capable, smart, powerful, intelligent women, and they get brought down so easily, and Americans just don't seem willing to support women and hold them to a completely different standard than men. So everything that this play is talking about, I am on board with, and I think it's timely as now, if not more so, than it was in the mid-1990s. But some of the criticisms of this play when it was on Broadway is that it has a long first act that kind of plods, and this is true. I was really surprised. The first act was an hour and 30 minutes. The play is advertised as being 2.5 hours, but if you include the intermission, it's 2 hours and 40 minutes. And that first act just has a very slow pace, and it's introducing a lot of side stories that ultimately may not feel as necessary, although I do see how Wendy Wasserstein is really examining this idea of women and how they're held to different standards from a bunch of different directions. So I do understand why she's bringing all in these sub-characters into this world, but the play doesn't really grab you and pull you along. It requires a bit of patience. And I was willing to go along with it because I thought the subject matter was important. Some of the positive things about this production is I think the set design by Mikiko Suzuki McAdams is really great. It's like this very lived-in house. It's got a garden at the back of the stage, and the light is pouring in and through the windows. Most all of the scenes, I think, take place at different times during the day. So I really enjoyed the set. The lighting is beautiful as well, and that's done by Alan C. Edwards. But I think my biggest issue with the play is the direction and the casting. A lot of the moments I feel in the play, they don't, studying acting, you talk about going from moment to moment. Every moment has a meaning. And I felt in this play that a lot of the moments didn't really have this meaning to them or this forward trajectory. We start the play right at the beginning and we meet our lead characters. Oh, this is in order of appearance. Thank you for that. I love that. We meet Lissa Dent Hughes, this professor who's been appointed for Surgeon General, and she seems to be a good choice and she's going to get in no problem. And Quincy Quince drops by, who's this younger woman who's in media, and she's written a book, and she's about new wave of feminism. And then we meet Lissa's best friend, Judith B. Kaufman, who is both Black and Jewish, and she's a doctor dealing with oncology and very successful woman. All these three very successful women. But what happens is, just right from the start, I just didn't believe the play. Quincy Quince just walks into this woman's house unannounced, and she's surprised, but not in a way that a strange woman walking into your house would be. And then same thing when Judy, played by Montego Glover, comes in. They're all being very cordial with each other, and then when Quincy Quince, played by Carmen Zillis, leaves, Judith says, "Oh, I was so awful to her." And I was like, were you? Because you seemed actually quite cordial. And there's even a moment where Judith says to Quincy, "Do you mind if I lie down for a minute?" She's sitting on the couch. And she's like, "Oh, no, go ahead." She's like, "I just have a bad headache, whatever." But then she takes this pillow and holds it behind her head like this. In a very awkward position. You're not lying down on the couch. You're just sitting and holding a pillow behind your head. It was just these directorial choices that I went, what's going on? And so right from the beginning, I was just confused about choices, and it kind of continued throughout the play. There'd be moments that just didn't track to me emotionally, and they lacked a dramatic impulse and momentum that they really needed to keep this play interesting. Just a little thing. Maybe this only happened in the production I saw, but in the second act, Lissa's father is a senator, and he's married his third or fourth wife, and her name is Charlotte. And Charlotte and Lissa are talking, and she takes out a cigarette case from her purse and says, "Do you mind if I smoke?" And Lissa makes a face, and she's like, "Oh, okay." And she then puts the cigarette back in the case, and she puts the case back in her purse. Then right after that, her husband, the senator, walks in, and he makes a comment about the cigarette case, which I don't get because it's not out anymore. She's put it away in her purse, and then he's like, "Let's go," and she's like, "Well, let me get together my accoutrement." But she's already put everything in her purse. So it was just moments like that where I went, what? I don't know. Maybe they're still figuring it out, but just things that just didn't logically make sense. And that's a nitpick, but it was accumulative throughout. There were moments where I constantly was getting pulled out of this play because I just didn't really believe these characters and what was happening. And smoking nowadays is impossible because they can't really smoke the cigarettes, so we're pretending smoking, which I wish there was a better solution to that. Okay, let me just talk about the cast real quick. For the most part, I thought the casting was really strong. Standouts for me were Montego. I liked for the most part, except for some weird choices, like when you say you're going to lie down and you don't. But I liked her as Judith. I liked Carmen as Quincy. I really enjoyed Dakin Matthews as Alan Hughes, the old senator. Although he's supposed to be from Indiana and he seemed to have a southern drawl, which I didn't really get. But I just enjoyed his character so much that I went, okay, maybe he was born in the South and moved to Indiana. I'll go with it. I liked Robert Sean Leonard as Walter Abramson. I thought he was really great. I also really enjoyed Charlotte Chubby Hughes, played by Mary Beth Peil. Really enjoyed the cast, with one exception. And guys, I feel terrible about this because she studied with my acting teacher, Bill Esper. So I feel like I need to support my fellow alums, but Lissa Dent Hughes is played by Jean Lichty, who is also the founder and the executive producer of Femme Theatre Productions, which is producing this. And she plays, which is essentially the lead character, although they have reworked this a little bit more so that Judith, played by Montego Glover, has a bigger role. But it really is all circling around Lissa's story. And Jean has made a choice to do this kind of Bryn Mawr accident. Her character went to Bryn Mawr. That kind of lockjaw. It reminds me actually of Moira Rose from Schitt's Creek, but it also reminds me of that character from Auntie Mame, Gloria Upson. That kind of walkway, that upper crust drawl. And she's speaking with that accent, but it is getting in the way of the intelligibility, and it's getting in the way of her acting. I find that she is so focused on doing the accent that she's getting this cadence that is repetitive, and I kind of know how she's going to say every line before she says it. And it's affecting her ability to live fully in the moment. And another thing is she's a little on the older side from what you would expect with this character, which I just went with. But I felt that the character lacked this vitality that was really needed. And originally this character was like in her 40s and Jean is in her 60s. So whereas it didn't bother me that she was older, I just felt like she wasn't right for this role. There's a moment at the end too where we see her wearing menswear, well, not menswear, but wearing slacks and button-up shirts, not traditional feminine wear, throughout the play. And then for this interview, she decides to put on a dress and a headband. And there's a moment where she takes the headband off and she basically just lets loose. Spoiler alert, because it's the end of the play. And I just felt like that moment needed to be so powerful, but she was getting irritated throughout the conversation. And I didn't see that clean break where she decided, I'm done with this, other than the removing of the headband. But I felt like, oh, this could be such a strong moment, and it wasn't. I did get a really nice strong moment from Montego Glover where she gives a speech about donut holes, where she is also giving an interview to support her friend, and she nails it. She nails the interview and doesn't let the interviewer get to her at all, and I loved that moment for Montego. I just wish a lot of these characters feel like they could just be awful. I think of like shows like Veep, where there's so much subtext and there's so much meanness in the things they're saying, and they're trying to be clever and smart. But then when they're on television, they completely change. And I felt like I didn't quite get that dichotomy, that difference. The character of Morrow, who is this, gosh, I don't even remember what he does, but he's involved in politics. And he would have some lines where I wasn't sure if he was being sarcastic and making a joke or if he was actually serious. And this is important because he is one of the characters that causes the problem for Lissa. So I just wish I understood more when he was being sarcastic and when he was being truthful and pointed and what the reasoning. But then I really enjoyed him more in the second act, where I just realized what a broken person he was and how in need of friendship he was. So I did go on a journey with him. Gosh, guys, this is all over the place. So let's just get down to it. Was I bored? Was I confused? I was bored in the first act. It's an hour and a half, and just the scenes seemed to plod along. And there just wasn't a lot of excitement. There wasn't a lot of conflicting wants between the characters. And whereas I enjoyed the dialogue and enjoyed what the show was about, I just was losing my patience with it. Now the second act moves a lot quicker. It's half the time of the first act. That's when the shit hits the fan. So I actually really enjoyed the second act, and I like the change. From what I've read, they changed the ending of the play. I won't say what it's about, but from what I read, the original play, the way the play originally ended and the way it ends now, I do think this is a better choice, and I enjoyed the ending more than I think I would have enjoyed the original. So was I confused? Well, I've told you about just really confused with the directing and the acting, which is, it's theater. But when your lead character is not feeling like a real person that I can really understand and relate to, then we're in for a tough time. And so I was just confused. I was really having to work hard to try really follow the emotional beats in this play. So let's wrap this up. Overall, I think what this play is about is important and interesting. It needs some cuts to that first act. They need to trim 15 minutes off of that. It just needs to be focused. But I think that with the right direction and the right cast, I think this play could soar. But as it is now, this production for me was mentally interesting, and I'm glad I saw it, but as great theater goes, it was lacking. So reasons to see this show. Well, if you like Wendy Wasserstein and you want to see this play that's not done that much, it's one of her lesser known plays. I think this play is very timely politically. with the way women have been treated running for higher office. So it is a timely story, which I think is important to see for that reason. So where did I sit? I actually saw the show twice. Someone gave me a ticket, one of my YouTube subscribers, thank you for the ticket, and I saw the first preview. It was pretty rough, so fortunately I had press tickets and was able to see it again, and the play had improved a lot, but it still had some issues, as I said. So at first time I sat in the second row, right in the center, amazing seat, and the second time I was on the edge on row L, also a great seat, because honestly this theater has no bad seats in it. So you can get a $35 rush ticket on TodayTix, and that is how I would recommend you see this show. It has been extended to September 20th, so go grab your rush ticket and check out An American Daughter. If you've already seen this, please comment below and let me know what you think. And when you go see this, you have been forewarned, so I hope you will not be bored or confused. Bye.
Don't wanna drift away, we wanna